everyone, and welcome to the second installment of the Fitchburg Art Museum's video series, Art Matters. This series will feature the voices of artists, staff, and community members discussing the ways that the artwork in our exhibitions and our collections engage with the world around us. We'll be exploring questions like, why is this work important right now? And how does this work help us see differently beyond the walls of our museum? I'm Marjorie Rawle. I'm the Tirana Assistant Curator at the Fitchburg Art Museum. And today I'm so happy to be joined by one of the amazing artists featured in our current exhibition, After Spiritualism, Imna Arroyo. Arroyo is an artist, educator, and activist whose work explores the connections between the African continent and the diaspora through a variety of media, including painting, printmaking, bookmaking, and multimedia installation. Imna, thank you so much for being here.
Well, it's my pleasure to be here with you.
Excellent. So I wanted to start with just discussing some of the works that are included in our show After Spiritualism. Your two works are titled Ancestors of the Passage and Prelude to the Door of No Return. And they both deal with the shared historical trauma of the transatlantic slave trade. Can you tell us a little bit more about the background of these pieces and their origins?
Sure. Well, both of these pieces came after a trip to, my first trip to Africa. It was in 1997. And I was exploring, looking, going to Africa for the first time, great interest in fabrics. Mm-hmm. And I stayed with a friend of mine, the family of a friend of mine, Martin Obeng, and they took me to Elmina. They took me to Cape Coast. It was the area where they used to have, they have the big constructions, forts by the coast. And it was the place where they used to bring the enslaved people and wait until they take them to, in the boats to the Americas. And I came in somewhat late during the day and they were about to close. But the guide insisted, no, we can take you. We'll do it fast. And I said, okay, I'm not going to go back again. So we did. And for my surprise, I am from Puerto Rico. We have what is called El Castillo De San Cristobal. We have all these forts. And never in my life it occurred to me that these forts were places where they put in human cargo, humans that were about to become cargo. And when you go down, you realize that it's dark, it's a dungeon. There's no lights and you can barely see. And the spaces are very small. Mm-hmm. So you can imagine the amount of people. You can imagine the heat in Ghana is like tropical there. Mm-hmm. You can imagine the sweat, the blood, the body fluids and other things. Mm-hmm. And he points out, you are standing in calcified human stuff. That in itself, when you realize where you're standing, your heart stops. Mm-hmm. It looks like time do not pass in that sense. So he continued moving along and looking at the place. And when we go to the end and he said, and this is the door of no return. Something from deep from my soul, a voice really, truly came out and went like, no, we returned. And at that moment, as I'm saying that, I see another Black man with an English accent that he looks at me, we both look at each other and he echoes, mm-hmm. Yes, we returned. And at that point, I realized that this is whatever life we're living, this is a continuum. Mm-hmm. In terms, there's no boundaries, time and space. Mm-hmm. And it was like a portal sort of opened for me, mm-hmm. of the existence of this invisible world that is palpable and not only palpable, it seems to be interacting quite well with all of us. Mm-hmm. So that was my first encounter with spirit in that sense. And the concept of ancestors
Mm-hmm.
because I was not, at that time I was not in tune with the concept.
Right.
So I came back home very excited, and I started this piece called "The Ancestors of the Passage," in which were all sculptures. They are busts, life size, but the bust with hands extended. It was a floor installation, and the piece was conceived to give voice to the experience, because we seem to learn about slavery in books, and
Mm-hmm.
we don't understand it, we don't see it. I know that people that have Jewish heritage, they go to Germany and they go and visit that history. In the case of people of the African diaspora, that experience doesn't seem to be acknowledged, as part of our history, or embrace it, because it is a painful history. It is a shameful history, shameful for many parties. So it is a complex history.
Mm-hmm.
And for some reason, I came home, just worked and was buying tons of clay. And I'm not a sculptor, by the way. I am a printmaker. I can paint, but I was making this 27 busts
Mm-hmm.
with hands extending. And those pieces represent different groups of African groups, because there were different groups that came in. And I have to figure out the numerology, how much of what to make it look a multitude, because I have no money to create a multitude of sculptures.
Mm-hmm.
So 27 was a good number. It was a multiple of threes.
Yep.
That really worked well for me.
Mm-hmm.
And the idea of them having their hands extended coming out of the waters, because they're really coming out and telling us that we have our gifts.
Mm-hmm.
And it's in a way, it is a painful history, but we're here and we are part of their legacy. So they have influenced, we have influenced so many, they have influenced us. As a consequence, we have influenced culture, we have influenced humanity, we have affected language, music, art, medicine, everything, all whatever their culture they gave us, it continues.
Mm-hmm.
But basically, that's what the piece was about. Is about giving voice for the atrocities, because it says it's horrendous to think that the people that they brought in those boats, they didn't care if they have to lose, if people, half of the boat cargo will die,
Mm-hmm.
and then they could still make a profit
Mm-hmm.
out of the voyage. Just the carelessness to human life, decency,
Mm-hmm.
and all of the above.
Mm-hmm.
So the piece was about that. So the lithograph is part of the installation. The lithograph is lithography with calligraphy.
Mm-hmm.
But the one that is in the installation is all the calligraphy. And those are the witness, because we have to be witness of our experiences. And standing at the Elmina Castle, right at the door of no return, I became a witness to the scene of the crime, of the atrocities that was done. I felt it. So it's about acknowledging history
Mm-hmm.
and saying something about it.
Mm-hmm.
So when I made that installation, I made an altar.
Mm-hmm.
That was the first time that when I made an altar, and I felt that we needed something to decompress, a place in which by doing this work, I realized the power of healing, art and healing. People, the first time that the show was exhibited was at Trinity College, and people will sit in the floor and cry. So I thought about the altar was a way of honoring the people that died, because we haven't done enough of acknowledging and being thankful. They gave us some terrific DNA. So I'm still celebrating the DNA part, besides all the other things. But it was about acknowledging the experience, acknowledging history, acknowledging the connection. And then it was open to the public that it was not only people of African descent, but we all lose people in painful ways and natural ways, that we don't, not to see death as a final dark thing in life, but death is a transition from one state to the other. We can say, okay, there's another stage, and we can actually celebrate it in many ways, because there's we all graduate out of something. So we graduate out of this life into another life. So we should, the Mexican does it with the Day of the Dead. There's an acknowledgement, a celebration. Thank you for the gene pool you have given me. Thank you for letting me stand in your shoulders. Thank you for the culture you have brought me, that have enriched me. Just to be grateful for that.
Yeah.
Well, that piece is about that celebration as well. So the interactive component becomes important, because then it's not only my perspective, but you also can come in and say, yes, I understand, I participate. I found people saying to me, oh, I just lost my mom. Can I? And I said, oh, yes. And so on and so forth. So we all have messages, unfinished business, celebration, and acknowledge. All of those things. So the piece helped to move that energy through. Absolutely. But that was the purpose of the altar, and it seems that it have taken a life of its own. It continues.
It absolutely does, and I think that's part of the incredible impact of the piece is the fact that it has so much history and also a personal story from your end, and then it's able to be expanded even beyond that with audience participation. It's so complex and so layered, and it really has an amazing impact, I think. And I wonder too, if just listening to you speak about all of these things, it feels very relevant to our current moment, and the new sort of shared traumas and issues and legacies that are bubbling up again in this country, in particular the legacies of slavery and racial violence and white supremacy, and now this global pandemic that we're all sharing in. So it touches on this idea of collectivity and connectivity. And I wondered if, the current moment that we're all living through has changed your thinking, or has, got you thinking in new ways about these pieces or new pieces, or, I just think your work speaks so importantly to the current moment. So I wonder if that brought up anything new.
As I said before, we're part of a continuum. So keeping that in mind, and everything that is happening right at this moment, one of the things that this moment have brought forth for us is the unveiling, the lack of a different word perhaps, but since we're dealing with spiritualism and art, veils in the spiritual world seems to be an appropriate language to express it. But we all live with certain assumptions, and the pandemic have challenged those assumptions.
Mm-hmm.
We think we're all equal, and that's a beautiful assumption. But in reality, when you see that within the pandemic, a lot of blacks and brown people are the ones that are being impacted with the mortality rate here. Something to think about.
Mm-hmm.
The other part is we read the newspaper, we look at the television continuously, and we understand police brutality. But to see it in television in the way it was portrayed, the way it was done, it brings a different dimension. And for me, it brought in a spiritual dimension. And you see somebody literally leaving their body.
Mm-hmm.
In national television.
Mm-hmm.
We're not used to that. I hope we're not continue to be. But when you see that, you understand what is really the outrage of everybody. It is not only our outrage from seeing the injustice, the brutality, I don't even have enough words
Mm-hmm.
to express the monstrous way of dealing with another person.
Mm-hmm.
So then you really have to, and after everybody came out into the streets, you start seeing that the indignations, not only from this period of time, but it's been an accumulation of injustices. And 400 years of injustices is a long time.
Mm-hmm.
And to have right now, everybody taking our breath, we can't breathe. Literally, you can't breathe at the reality
Mm-hmm.
of what many people live in this country.
Mm-hmm.
So yes, what was slavery? Slavery is the taking of another, a group of people, diminish them, dehumanize them, exploit them. Did that sound familiar in the 21st century? What I'm saying is, it's like we're not looking at a painting or an artwork that came from no context. Mm-hmm. This artwork came from pain. Mm-hmm. And an acknowledgement of that pain. And when we raise our eyes and look at the horizon, we see the residuals, the cause and effect of that act. Mm-hmm. And how this country was built out of the labor of all of this group of people, and they were never paid. And they continue never to get less, and they don't have an education, don't get medical, don't get this, don't get that. Why? But that's the reality in which we're living. Mm-hmm. So what is it that the ancestors are telling us? We come back to this. We understand all of that. The ancestors are telling us that we come from a place of dignity, of love, of strength. They made it through hell and back, and here we are. Mm-hmm. So they did their part. We have to do our part, and we are equipped to do it because they equipped us. They have equipped us spiritually, because everywhere we go, we have an entourage walking with us. Mm-hmm. So that we are doing la batalla, where la batalla is we at this juncture, I wouldn't say doing in the fight, but we're not by ourselves. Mm-hmm. We are with all of those that came before us, all our brothers and sisters that are here, and the rest of the population that understand justice. Mm-hmm. And injustice. And if you are, a person of good character, that should bother you, that people are treated badly
Mm-hmm.
and unfairly. So, as a person of good character, step it up
Mm-hmm.
and join the fight.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, when I made this piece, I had no idea that this was going to happen. You know, I was acknowledging the past,
Mm-hmm.
but the past and the present are one at this moment.